Welcome to Chronicles of Transformative Change and Impact, where we navigate the path from vision to impact, one story at a time. I am your host, Carol Reese, and on this show, we uncover the personal quests and powerful stories of individuals and communities who are making a real difference. Join us as we explore journeys of transformation, innovation, and empowerment. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and motivated to create your own impact.
Ah, Mr. Lambert, I'm so
Hey.
excited you're here. Thank
Reese,
you
Reese.
so much.
I'm grateful.
I want you to tell the listening audience who Mr. Lambert is. Just talk to us about who you are.
Man, so at my core, I'm just a big geek. That's why I have this big, shiny forehead. I spent the vast majority of my life trying to gather information I thought would be useful.
Okay.
And the things that were useful to me were always about money.
Mm.
I was a curious kid.
Okay.
I used to get in trouble with my dad at the grocery store because when he would get change back, I was like, "Oh, you got $17.23 coming back," and he'd get mad and say, "Don't tell everybody in the store my business."
Right.
So I was very curious about money growing
Okay,
up,
okay.
and that put me on a good path. I had my first economics class at Highland Springs Elementary, no, Highland Springs High School,
Okay.
at the specialty center there. I went on to get a bachelor's of economics, a master's in finance, and a master's in real estate. And I just learned as much as I could because as I learned, I found that it almost like was a calling to bring that stuff home to my family, to be able to coach my brothers and my sisters on how to look at the world differently from an economic point of view.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow. So that was a lot. Did I hear you 3 masters? Is that what I heard?
2 masters, a master in finance, a master in real estate. I'm currently working on a PhD.
I thought I was a nerd. Okay. Okay. Well, Dr. Dr. Lambert, soon to be Dr. Lambert.
Yeah.
I'm claiming it for you.
I appreciate that.
I am so excited you're here because I am one of your biggest fans, simply because of what you do. So please tell the listening audience about what you do with the community.
So what I do in the community, I started an organization called Dollars and Cents.
Okay.
But we say that dollars and cents equals generational wealth.
Mm.
So what I do is I teach the youth in Henrico, Richmond, Chesterfield, and wherever I can, the stuff that I learned along my educational journey.
Okay.
So I teach them about the importance of having a budget, the value of being able to own stock as opposed to owning the things that consumer products. I teach them about the value of owning real estate and being able to get rents in addition to capital appreciation. So I try to teach them these things in a very condensed way, and a very digestible way. So we've had the pleasure of being able to teach kids in elementary school how to make a budget and how to work on the budget, refine their budget till it gives them what they want. We've taught middle school kids, especially girls, how to understand real estate, whether it's residential or commercial real estate, and how to value these different assets based on what you're going to pay for it and what it pays you. And we've taught, especially high school students, how to average down. So when the stock price falls, we get excited in the community when it's Black Friday, right? There's so many sales going on. But when the stock price falls, depending on the stock, it may also be an opportunity. It may also be a discount. So we teach them how to understand the stock market from a point of view of not being emotional, but being financially acute, or using their financial acumen better.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So let's unpack that, right? So first, tell me your why.
I was just always curious.
Okay.
And as I learned things about the Black community that both made me excited and made me a little sad. So for instance, in 1962, our home ownership rate was around 38%, right?
Okay.
And that was before the Fair Housing Act, was before civil rights. One of the things that I learned in school that made me sad was that in the 2009 recession, we actually dipped back down to those levels. So, and that's why I always say that it's important for me, or it's important for the young women, the girls in the community, to learn these things, because before the 2008-2009 recession, they were pushed into taking subprime mortgages and adjustable mortgage at a rate of 256% more likely than a similarly credit situated white male. So, and because of this, they were taken advantage of because they didn't know their options. They were the worst losers during the 2008 recession, and we as a community, the Black community, still hasn't recovered.
Wow.
So my why is to be able to teach the youth how to be more resilient, have a healthy relationship with money, with wealth, and with assets than we do now.
Okay.
So that they can continue the work that was started with the civil rights generation. You know, the work of improving us long term while we're here.
And that's a great goal, because we lose some of the stories, and a lot of the younger generation don't understand the impact of the freedom we have now is because of what people did in the past. So I know that what you're doing now is having an impact today and for the future. Can you give us an example of how you helped someone, a family, a student, or do you have a story you'd like to share from beginning to like the impact?
Oh man, so I'm a little embarrassed by that question because my favorite student was actually my favorite teacher.
Okay.
And that's my mother.
Wow.
You know, our mothers are always our first teachers.
Yeah.
And, you know, my mother went through a rocky time in her life where she had to file bankruptcy. And when she got out of the bankruptcy, I was working at Virginia Housing.
Okay.
And I was telling her, oh, you're out of bankruptcy, you can purchase a home now. And, you know, she had a lot of people in the ear telling her she couldn't. She was in her 60s at this time. She was retired at this time.
Okay.
And I'm encouraging her to purchase a home. She finally listened. She finally went to the Virginia Housing to get a loan. And she purchased a home at $106,000. The neighbor next door to her just sold for $220,000. So she's
she got equity already.
She got equity, and she's doing. And she hasn't even owned the home for maybe 8 years now.
Wow.
And it's just a reminder to me that, you know, you pour into those who poured into you.
Right.
First.
Yes.
And just because you're going through a rocky road financially doesn't mean there still isn't opportunities for you.
Right. So let's talk about opportunities. You mentioned the stock market, you mentioned real estate and other things. How do you even get to the mindset of helping people get to understand where they need to go? Like you talk about your mom and how you had to convince her. I know there's challenges, so let's talk about that. Let's dig in.
So one of my favorite eye-opening moments, I always start most classes when it's my first time at a school or at a location. I always start with what's the most wealthy country in the world, and I just get the students to give me whatever answers, whatever age group they're at.
Okay.
So a lot of people aren't aware that America's been the richest country in the world since 1890. It's been the richest country in the world for 135 years. In 2024, the gross domestic product of America was $29 trillion. The number 29 with 12 zeros behind it. The number 2 country in the world is China. They made 18 trillion. They are literally 10 years behind us. We're running a Boston. We're doing incredibly well.
Okay.
So, and that's the mindset shift, right? Because we're aware that there's so many people move to this country for, you know, economic prosperity, but we don't see it.
No.
So it's kind of opening their eyes to it and making them aware that that there's opportunities around them every day. There's a game I play with the kids, or the game that I've created that I play with the kids. We use movie money. And at a certain point in the game, I give them the opportunity to either buy things or buy stocks. And I put them right next to each other. So you can either buy the electric car, or you can be the owner of the electric car company. You can buy some nice shoes or some Nike shoes, or you can be the owner of the Nike shoe company. And after a few iterations or a few months, which last about 5 minutes in the game, they started to realize, I said, how did Johnny get more money than me? Well, Johnny's got more money than you because he's been buying the stock and you've been buying the shoes. And then it's like,
okay.
And it's like, no. I'm going to have more money than Johnny. I'm going to start buying the stock now.
Right.
And it's like, that's what I'm in it for. That's why I'm here.
Where were you when I was in elementary school? God, so many things I would have done differently, right? And as we are having this conversation and you're dropping these nuggets, and thank you so much, because I want my listening audience to really understand not just the importance of having a budget, but the importance of looking for residual income sources, right? And that's when you talk about the investment. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. My grandfather was one of my inspirations.
Okay.
He purchased a home in off Lamb Avenue in Barton Heights or Highland Park, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And it was a duplex.
Okay.
So when he purchased it, the other side was basically paying the mortgage. He never had to pay a mortgage. He was a real estate investor.
Okay.
The issue was he didn't teach the next generation how to take care of that asset. So now, if you look at the neighborhood, it's always a generational effect, especially in our community when it comes to money. You have one generation that puts all their work into one asset, and then the next couple of generations don't value that asset in the same way, and it depreciates. Until somebody comes around and is like, oh, I'll give you a couple of pennies for it. And they give away.
And we're having the same battle in my family. My family's gonna be listening to this, so I want them to hear this.
Yeah.
We have land that's deeded in my great grandfather's name, and we have cousins that pay their taxes. But we are the top of the food chain. All our aunties and uncles are gone.
Yeah.
And there's 19 of us first cousins left. And I'm saying to my family, if we don't do something to make sure this land generates income to take care of itself, the next generation doesn't have the love we have for it.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't spend time on it like we did. We grew up. We spent time. We were in the garden. We was playing in the woods,
right.
running around creating toys because we didn't have toys. So as I'm trying to help them understand the importance of that, do you come across scenarios where there's land involved and individuals just don't know how to do with generational land that's been handed down?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that happens all the time. It's and that's why I teach financial literacy. To me, financial literacy is a combination of two words. So the first word is financial, right? So money, yes. Stocks, bonds, budgets. Yes. The second word is literacy.
Yes.
So if I go to Ghana right now, I'm going to struggle because I'm illiterate. I don't speak the language. Right. I don't understand. I can't read. I can't write. It's going to be a struggle for me to survive. We African Americans, we struggle with financial literacy because we don't understand the language. Mm-hmm. So even having a lot, we may not know what it's zoned for. We may not know what grows there naturally. We may not know the different options or opportunities that are just there on the land.
Right.
I had a friend of mine who works at Virginia State, and he helps farmers.
Okay.
And he was telling me that hemp is one of the easiest things to grow.
Right.
You plant a seed and it grows like a weed, mm-hmm. and then you just cut it and it grows. It's almost no extra work, after you put the seed in the ground.
Okay.
And it's small things like that that are like, once again, seeds.
Yes.
You plant them where they can and hope that they grow.
Right.
But with land, and that's why I always tell the kids, with real estate, it's really the combination of two things. Mm-hmm. It's dirt and the buildings on top of it.
Right.
But before there was dirt, before the buildings on top of it, there was the dirt.
Right.
The dirt was always there.
Always.
So if you have dirt, you can do different things with it. Mm-hmm. When you have a building on top of it, you're kind of restricted.
Right. Gotcha.
So if you got raw land, you have more opportunities than if you don't.
Right. I know the stories of my grandmother, and my cousins are going to correct me when they watch this, but they leased a part of the property for others to grow crops. So there was always corn. There was always something being grown on my grandmother's land, and that person would harvest and then pay her a lease, and that's how she lived because she didn't work. That's one of the things that she did. And so I think as a community, with everything going up, we have to really get back to understanding the dirt mm-hmm. that we have to see if it's something we can grow. And I have to look into hemp. I don't really know how that would work, what you do with it, but I'm helping others really understand how to move forward. And your course and what you do helps people move forward. What are some of the barriers and challenges you've come across when you are trying to introduce this topic to a new entity, a new class, a new student, or a new organization?
I would say one of the biggest barriers I see, and I see it all everywhere, from elementary school to middle school to high school, is social media. It's social media. It's TikTok. It's the Instagrams. Mm-hmm. Because the games we play are interactive, right? And we pay them in movie money. Mm. And as soon as I give them the movie, they start making money fans and using the money phone, and it's like, well, where did you get that from? Right. Who taught you that?
Right.
It's a cool thing to do, but cool will cost you too.
Right.
So but it's being able to break not break that mindset, but to be able to change that mindset. Mm-hmm. And what I do is I create games. Okay. So yesterday I was at Laburnum Elementary, and we were playing trash can basketball. And
back in the day.
Exactly. Simple stuff. You get paid $5 if you make it. You get $2 if you hit it and it bounces out.
Okay.
But you also get the opportunity to put your money in the bank and earn what's called interest. And if you put your money in the bank, you get 100% interest. If you put your money in your pocket, you get nothing. What are you going to do? Then after the game plays for a little bit, they start to see, how other people are maneuvering through the game. They're like, no. By the end of the game, everybody's putting their money in the bank.
Okay.
So it's about teaching them these options when they're young.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found challenging is I lived in the West End. When my kids with my daughters in high school, and we went to a library way out in the West End, and we had to go to an event at another school, and the school actually had a credit union. This is a middle school in the school, right? And I'm like, wow, right? Because they were teaching them. But that's not what you find in a city school, right? In an urban area. And I think that is unfair. So by you teaching the course, you're kind of closing that gap, providing them information. So thank you for that. The next question is, as you're doing this and as you are journeying and teaching and training, what changes have you seen in the industry that are really affecting us economically now?
So there are a lot. There are a lot of changes. There's been a lot of change in 2025 already. Right? There's a lot of change.
A lot of change. Yes.
So, with one of the things I've seen, and this is in my lifetime, the barriers to entry to being an investor have been lowered. So when I was younger, in the early 2000s, you used to have to pay to purchase stock. For almost every share through E-Trade, you have to pay like a $15 fee to be able. Now it's free. Right, exactly. You can purchase stock for free. Kids can purchase stock on Cash App.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So it's much easier to become an investor now, but there are also so many more distractions.
Right.
A lot of times I get asked to do classes on like cryptocurrencies, for instance. I think it can be a safe investment if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, because I've heard the horror stories.
It's so many horror stories, and it's so easy. You can create a cryptocurrency in about 30 minutes. Yeah, there are about 22,000 cryptocurrencies out there. Some are created tomorrow, and they'll be gone by Friday. So you have to be very careful because it's a very new industry, and there's a lot of I'm not going to say manipulation, but there are a lot of things that go on that I'm just not comfortable
You're
with.
not ready yet.
I'm not ready for it.
Yeah, you need to go through some more changes. Exactly. I'm with you there because I've heard horror stories like one time, because there's always something coming along to convince people you can make millions of dollars if you invest right now. So first it was the gold. I remember somebody was going around trying to sell pieces of gold or investment in gold. And then it was Bitcoin, and then like you said, the cyber currency. And so as individuals and consumers, how do we even recognize, when something is real or not? And how do you know when to invest and not? As you were saying, for the trades, it's lower now and you can purchase it. But how do you even begin to understand what that really means for the person asking for a friend?
Yeah, no. That's a great question. And I would say, so I focus on the education.
Okay.
So that when the kids graduate, they can have a sharp pencil and be able to be aware of what's going on. So there's certain places you get information, and there's certain places you just don't.
Right.
So to me, if it's on Forbes or if it's on certain CNBC, Bloomberg, if they're talking about these things, depending on the conversation, it's almost like, okay, it's verified. It's good because they're talking about it at this level. Right. Yes. But if they're talking about it, once again, on social media, on TikTok, and Instagram, I have to take what they say and then I have to verify it somewhere else.
Research it.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we have to be we have to get better at researching.
Okay.
Because we live in the richest country in the world, but it doesn't mean we're going to get rich overnight.
We as a culture of people rely on others to tell us what we need, when we need it, how we need it. We don't do our own research, and that challenges me in so many levels. So let me recap some nuggets. The first thing is really learning the language of money, understanding that, the importance of a budget, the importance of investing in yourself to understand where you should put your money, understanding your land and what it can do for you and how we can do it. And it's never too late to invest or buy property.
Absolutely.
And then cryptocurrency, do your research, right? I heard that. And the last thing is really helping the people that we have around us and in our world understand the journey. And if we don't, we just send them to you, Mr. Lambert. Yeah. So can you leave my audience with 3 good nuggets of, let me see, not really advice, but just 3 good nuggets of information you think they should have.
Absolutely. So the first I would say is that we as a Black community are great at consuming products.
Yes.
We're great consumers. We need to focus on being better capitalists. How do we get money to come in our direction as opposed to how do we get money to go in a different direction, right?
Yes.
We need to get better at accumulating income and wealth and assets.
Okay.
And that first comes with, like you said, understanding the language of it. So if we can't understand the language of something, we can't understand how to navigate it.
Right.
So one thing I always recommend is that I have a Amazon Fire Stick.
Okay.
They have I want to say Bloomberg. They have 2 different channels of Bloomberg, and they have a Yahoo Finance channel on the Yahoo we have, on the Fire Stick we have. These channels are free, And if you choose to watch it, or if you put your kids in front of it 15, 20 minutes a day, you may not understand it on day one. By day 30, you're gonna grow, you're gonna expand, and you're gonna be able to understand things differently.
Okay.
So in addition to listening, also reading. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is one of my favorite books.
I love that.
Richest Man in Babylon.
Yes.
There are so many
I read
great
that
books.
one too. Yes.
So many great books.
So many great books.
Yeah. So understanding education always first, and then application. So one of the things I also recommend is that custodial accounts for kids. You can buy kids stock.
Yes.
So if there's a popular toy that's coming out, say Disney makes this popular toy, a popular movie's coming out, give the kid the toy and the stock. And then a year later, ask them which one is still more valuable.
Ooh, that's great. Yes, that's great. That's awesome.
Right.
Okay, granddaughter. We're going to have that conversation. Yes, we will.
That's a real thing, because then you're starting to train them to compare the differences between being a consumer and a capitalist.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, very good.
And then the third thing is, like we've been talking about so far, is having the conversation about the family.
Yes.
Because we tend to think that this is an individual journey. It is not. It's a collective journey.
It is.
And being aware of things our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents did to accumulate wealth will help us understand our place in that journey.
Yes.
So like I said, my grandfather owned real estate. My father owned real estate. I own real estate.
Awesome.
My children, you understand?
Yes.
It's a generational lineage.
Yes.
And if the kids aren't aware, they're going to miss out.
Yes, this is so true. Thank you so much. And I thank you for sharing and being vulnerable and open. Thank you so much. Now, how does someone get in touch with you?
So my organization is Dollars and Cents. My website is dollarsandcents.fund. So DOLLARSNSENSE.FUN. I can be reached at my email, which is info@dollarsxcents.com.
All right.
So any one of those ways, there's a phone number on the website. I'm available.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on Chronicles of Transformative Change and Impact. I hope today's stories inspired you to take your own journey toward impact and transformation. Remember, every vision has the power to create change, one step and one story at a time. Be sure to tune in next time as we continue to explore the quests that shape our world. Until then, keep striving, keep transforming.